It's basketball time. It's men's wheelchair basketball time. This is a Group B clash between Australia and China. Nick Morris sits beside yours truly, Peter Walsh, in one of the best locations you'd get at a basketball venue, although we are up a little bit high. But speaking of high, the Aussies on a high, a win last night against Great Britain, 67-48. And I would think, as I welcome the champ himself, Nick Morris, who played in the Atlanta Olympic Games gold medal team and of course has been a regular for the Australian rollers for many, many years. He's the expert at these games, and I'm delighted to have him sitting beside me with all his knowledge. This is a game that you should think about being done and dusted. Australia should cream China and then look for bigger fish to fry a little later on.
Absolutely. This is a game where our shooting percentages and the way we work our offense and keeping the defense nice and tight, we reinforce that with a game like this.
One of the best things about China being involved in a game where, of course, the Paralympics are at Beijing is you're going to get a decent crowd, and that is the case. And I tell you what, they will make some noise. They've played two games. They were thrashed by Great Britain 34-81, and Israel handing out a similar demolition job, 41-80 in favour of the Israeli team. So the Australians warm favourites. They should win the game. But in that situation then, what's going to be the most important thing that they will discover for themselves in a game like this, Nick?
Well, you know, it's people like, well, Justin Everson, he doesn't need to prove a damn thing. He is shooting at a high percentage. We know what we're going to get. Brad Ness, he'd love to maybe get a few easier baskets, get a bit more touch. Brendan Dowler and guys like Adrian King, who probably hasn't had the best couple of games, but he just needs a bit of touch to get the ball in his hands a bit more, and this game will allow him to do that.
Australia v China. Ness with the hot hands, super for the last couple of games. Spectacular, all right, and he will do the trick. There's no doubt about that.
The Chinese are playing a box defense. They're just keeping it nice and tight, so they're making the Aussies try and hit from outside. That's not a bad ploy, actually. If I was going to do it against the guys, you keep the big guys outside and make them hit from outside.
Yang to Lee. His ding for China. Up goes the shot with the left hand. Wouldn't it be a noise level that would be hard to contain if China got the first bucket? It would be something special. Everson lost it. They're on the fast break. Yang takes the ball for China, who are yet to win in this competition. He moves it forward quickly. Just outside the three-point line, it's flicked back to Yang, who fires it up, didn't fall in. Rebounded by Everson. So much to talk about during the coverage of this game, and a bit of controversy, and it'll all be wrapped up. Here for Australia is Norris. Norris works in underneath the basket. That is Bredenbauer. That's Sean Norris with the first 2 points of the game, and it's the scoreline for Australia.
He's been doing that for the last two games, and he's one of the reasons that we've been winning basketball. But the one thing we should just reiterate right from the start, each player on court gets a ranking of a point from 1 point up to 4.5, depending on their level of their functionality or their disability. 1 for a paraplegic, up to 4.5 for someone like Brad Ness, who's an amputee. What happens is you must get the calculator out and work out that each of those 4 players must not exceed a total points allocation of 14 points, Walshy.
And there's the points. There's the bucket for Li Yang. He also has the moving pictures on his left shoulder blade. Who hasn't these days? It's 2 plays 2. And the noise from the Chinese, gee, they love their sport, and they have been so spectacular as the bucket counts for Ness, who took it half an hour after he was fouled. That seemed like an eternity, and he's going to get the bonus shot.
And that's what this game, I hope, brings out. That Brad Ness can hit probably 5 to 10 of those shots from that area, so that when he comes up against the US and those teams that are a powerhouse, he can just sink them, bread and butter for him. So that's a great thing, because he's critical to our success. He is a champion, and he's a leader, and he is the captain of the team.
And he has 3 first quarter points, and the Australians lead by 5-2. And China already some woes. Their coach, Yang Seng-yu, looks on from the sidelines, but China undoubtedly with the, oh, there's a poor pass. Well, not so much the pass, but unfortunately we had Yang Zhangqiu who looked away, and whilst he was looking away, the Australians were concentrating on what was going on. Ben Ettridge taking a good bo peep at the proceedings.
So the starting 5 for Australia, we've got Shawnee Norris, who's the point guard, and he runs the show out there. Little Mick Harnett, who's critical to the big guys. He helps pick inside, and Sean Norris on a layup. Bad luck, didn't hit, but he will get 5 to 10 of them a game.
And I'll talk to you about the point guard and the significance of the role that the ball carrier does have in the sport of basketball, as Ness does some clever things. Works it across towards teammate Dowler. Australia 5, China 2. Early stages, first period. Everson. Neat little dish off shot. First one wasn't good. Second one was. And so that's 5 points to Ness. Why do you say the point guard, the ball carrier, is the most important player? Because he obviously, on many occasions, isn't the captain.
No. But he is on court. He ultimately controls the tempo of the offense. He calls the play, and he's also the safety. He's the first point of defense as well.
There's the shot that's up and in. 2 for Lee Young. Has 4 points, and Australia 7 lead China 4. So if you've got a decent point guard, you're halfway home. That's a really rip-roaring pass too, if you're careful on Sean Norris. That one fizzed through the air, and he was pretty happy to take it and put in his 4th bucket.
I tell you, a bloke who's no longer with us, who for probably about 15 to 20 years, Sandy Blythe, was everything Sean Norris was. And Sean Norris, whilst I don't think I put him in the same league just yet, geez, give him one more Paralympics and he's every bit of Sandy Blythe.
Yeah, and I can say that when we lost Sandy Blythe, that was one of the worst moments of any sports person's life, if you knew the quality of the man and the commitment that he had made to the sport in Australia. And I remember receiving a phone call and I was just numb. For those that weren't aware, his commitment to basketball was over decades.
Yep.
He was an outstanding man and an outstanding ambassador for the sport of wheelchair basketball around the world.
Yep.
And that was an absolute tragedy.
Gold medal captain, but to be honest with you, injuries, fatigue, he ran out of gas.
He did.
That was what happened, and it happens with quite a few athletes, unfortunately. We're now learning how to look after our athletes.
Yep.
Once the crowd stop. Great turnover there, and Sean Norris, he's just having a purple patch. Don't mind Brad Ness just coming down. They're just playing with these guys now.
Should have made them hurt with that shot. Ness underneath will make it. Yeah, he's got 7.
I tell you,
and it's 9-4. Oh no, it's 11-4. The scoreboard's a bit slow.
Now, just to recap on something last night that happened that was quite controversial. Last night, Troy Sachs was ordered to come off the court, and the referees had to reassess his cushion. Now, the reason, Walsh, that is quite significant, is that an appeal had to be made. Everyone in the crowd, including myself, thought the opposition coach, Murray Tressida, had made an appeal thinking that Troy's chair was illegal.
Chair or cushion?
Sorry, his cushion, but by default, the whole package.
Ness gets another point, or another bucket. He's got 9, and Australia 13. Now let's embellish on this too, because it's a good opportunity. With the timeout being called, Australia 13 lead China 4 by 9, and we have 5.5 to go in the first quarter of this Group B classification match in men's wheelchair basketball.
So, as I was saying, what happened last night, in fact, once I spoke to a couple of the team members, was Maureen Orchard, who's the president of the International Wheelchair Basketball Federation. She made an independent call for the referees to take Troy off court and reassess his cushion. Last night in the call, I suggested that the chairs were reviewed before every game to make sure of their legality, such as they must not be any higher than 53 centimetres in height. That's in fact wrong. They now do it that they assess their chair at the start of the tournament, and that's it. So, what does it mean? It means that Maureen made an independent call. Had Murray Tressida have made an appeal, he has 2 results. If he gets it wrong and the chair is legal, he gets a tech foul and the Australians get possession. If he gets it right and Troy's chair is illegal, or his cushion is illegal, Troy gets disqualified.
All right. I'll just play the devil's advocate. Why would Maureen do such a thing unless she had suspicions that there was something wrong with the cushion?
Geez, I'd love to tell you, but I don't.
Well, you'll have to. I've just asked you.
I know, but I can't use expletives.
Well, did she have the right to do that? Because surely that throws aspersions of guilt at the Australian camp.
Absolutely, it does. It goes right to the core that she, as an administrator, has made that call. It didn't even come from a classifier.
Have the Australians made their feelings known to Maureen after this has happened?
Unofficially, I think the Basketball Australia is investigating how the process of that, and I think they will make their feelings known, but I can't confirm that officially.
No, all right. Well, that's something we'll chase down, because it was a bit nasty. A bit nasty by saying that we sat where we are now and saw it all happen, and we weren't able to make a judgment on whether it was the United Kingdom or Great Britain that had thrown in a protest of some description, and I'm glad that wasn't the case, because that would have soured the relationships between the two playing nations. But there might be just a little bit more to be heard about this. But let's concentrate on what's going on court at the moment. Sean Norris for Australia saw him. 15, Brad Ness, the captain, has started spectacularly, and Justin Everson hasn't scored a bucket as yet. We're used to him scoring all the time. Harnett goes to Everson. Everson underneath to Harnett. Harnett lost control of it. Good work. And the ball, but the ball was thrown away. Here's Everson again. They love him.
Great pass.
What a pass. And it's in. Sean Norris has 6. 2 Australians are the only 2 to score. And we have Norris with 6, Ness with 9. That's 15. And for China, Li Yang has 4. So it's 15 plays 4.
And Justin Everson, that just reinforces why he's one of the best in the world. No-look pass. Shawnee Norris just sitting there. How can you possibly leave a player of that quality just sitting under the basket?
Folks back home, remember, China not ranked at all in terms of their proficiency at this sport. So Australia will win the game and win it well. But if you slide down to the riverside and find a big fish to fry, that's what the Australians would be looking for a little later on in this tournament. Teams of the calibre of the United States, teams of the calibre of Canada, and there's been a bit of a surprise in this competition. A bit of a surprise, unfortunately, with the competition. If you get beaten once, it doesn't matter. But Iran have had 2 wins, and they have played very well on both occasions.
I tell you, they've got the passion. I went to Iran in 1994, flew in, and I tell you, they had a sign in the hotel foyer that said, "Down with the USA." You fly in, you see the jets either side. But I bought an Iranian suit for $15, and I've still got it.
Yeah, cheapskate. You could have bought a new one for the Beijing Olympics. Here comes Young.
Speaking of that, Brad Ness has got a set of golf clubs that cost him $200, so he's pretty happy as well.
$200. He's bargained brilliantly at the market down the road. I'll tell you a story about the market in a moment. As Chen gets the pass off for China. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Bounce pass there from Peng Zhang Li, who has it now. We'd better fire it up now. Passes over towards Yang Dongju, and the 24-second shot clock is buzzing. And the look of exasperation on the coach of China, Yang Shangzhu. It's an Australian ball at 15-4. 3:48 to play in what's turning out to be a fairly predictable start to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had a sub, so Troy Sachs and Tyke Simmons are on.
Start the stopwatch now for Troy.
Absolutely. I've got a fiver to get his first foul within the next 2 minutes.
Well, he's got the ball, and he throws the ball with aggression, gets it back, is pondering having a shot, and decides no, goes to Harnett. Harnett, Norris pings away. He had time, but his shot missed. And with 3:20 to go before quarter time, Australia 15, China 4. The noise level, the responsibility of that noise level is from the locals, who are looking resplendent, banging their balloons together or whatever they do. They make noise, I know that's a fact. Up goes the shot, and that missed a lot. Wild and woolly from way out west was that shot from China's Peng Zhang Li. It's 15-4 with 3 minutes to go.
I tell you, look, China are not up there yet. They will be a powerhouse in the future. But the thing I like is the defense is, every time China's come down, they've had to put the basket up with only 3 to 5 seconds to go. And that all goes well because, as I keep on saying, defense will win this tournament.
Well, the Australian defence has been outstanding in this particular game as Harnett tumbles out of his basket, out of his
ref, come on, call it. Somebody. What happens in that instance is you can wheel over near the player, so they do stop it, so you can get your 5 players back on court. That, to me, is wrong.
Well, what it's done is it's really been of no assistance to Australia. It's hampered the Australians because they're one shy of having the full complement on court.
And also, how long does it take before Brad Ness goes barreling through for a layup?
Yes.
And I'll tell you what. You want to see a shirt fronting football, have a look at it with a heap of metal under your bum as well.
What's the worst that you've copped as Harnett now recomposes? And
having my fingers between my wheelchair and somebody else's wheelchair going flat out.
Wow. Break any?
Yeah, couple.
Here's a chance for China to score. The layup misses.
Oh, what a shame.
Brad Ness on the move for Australia. The captain with 9 first quarter points. Gets a little nudge from behind, didn't matter.
Great pick, Tyke Simmons.
Didn't affect him at all. He's going to go for it. He's going to get it.
That point system there, Tyke Simmons did exactly what he should have done. That is fantastic. Brad Ness, who then does the easy bit, I hope he goes and pats Tiger on the back and say, mate, that's your basket.
Got to catch him first.
He does too. There's a job to do because they've got to defend down the backcourt.
Tig. There you are. There's a few unusual names, and that's very, very neat and tidy from Wang Jianqiu. China 6, Australia 17, a minute 40 to go before quarter time.
And I want to see Kingy get a bit of touch as well. I want to just get a bit of confidence and get some good passes happening. Just then the Chinese guy with Troy down low, he wheels backwards, which in wheelchair basketball, if you're defending a player, you can't wheel backwards. And there was a sub as well. Nessie's taken a bit of a break. And I might just add, this is a new player called Tristan Knowles. And the reason he's new is because yesterday I was calling Justin Knowles.
You're forgiven.
Well,
there's been a few names that have been flowing around. I have alphabetical soup with a turtle head every morning at the breakfast table. Well, I think it's a turtle head. It appears from nowhere and swims around for a couple of laps and then might head off and visit Jerry Collins at the pool. I'm not sure, but...
Geez, I tell you what, we're going to stop talking about your diet.
No. I can tell you a story, though. There are a lot of Lus in China. There's none in this basketball team, but I think I've visited everyone in Beijing since I've been here.
Well, I tell you.
Here goes Troy Sachs.
Jeez. That's another thing that we need to concentrate on. Another thing that we need to make sure, if you go to the line, it's called a charity stripe for a reason. You've got to drop him.
Yeah, absolutely. 17-6. Plucky performance in the first turn by China. Yan Wan Q.
Good defense again.
Under 6 seconds left. He's going to go the
ball.
dish. He'd better hurry. Gu Zhangqian. No. And Sachs is tall, strong, rangy and powerful. Drags down the big board defensively.
Adrian King did really well then. He held the big guys as soon as he could and for as long as he could, and then all of a sudden gets a little bit of support from a bloke who's a little bit bigger, from Troy Sachs, and before you know it, they've got a turnover.
Yeah, and Sachs, the pass was on. The hands were hot, but Grant Mizen's range was not. 17-6 into the last 60 seconds of this first period. And it's a persistent Chinese combination who've kept at the Australians and might yet score before quarter time. Li Yang knows there's 30 seconds left, but he knows there's only 3 on the time clock, and he knows he's going to run out of time. As the Australians' ball, as Troy Sachs does a tumble. It's a hot ball. No, it's going to be an Australian ball. Well gathered.
Geez, I thought that was a violation. But the other thing, we don't get it from right down here, but I was watching the Australian bench in defence then, and the bench is close to the defensive end. We've got another player on court. That bench is screaming.
Yeah, that's good.
Defensively.
That's good to hear. And just how boring is it when you hear defence? You go to bed with a hangover.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Just about quarter time. The Australians will lead, but not as convincingly as one would have first anticipated. Quarter time here at the Group B men's wheelchair basketball clash between Australia and China at the National Indoor Stadium. And Australia 17 lead China 6. Everson to Ness. Watch this ball float and hang and then miss. He went back in for the second effort. There might have been some hand contact. And the ball will finish up there with Wang Jianqiu. Don't these coaches ever know that there's a seat? Nobody sits down. They're always walking around. They know that they're restricted as to how far they can go. They're always on the move.
Well, after the tournament, they go and sit down with a psychiatrist office, because I tell you what, half of them end up mental cases.
No, the best thing about going to see a psychiatrist is you can lie down. You don't have to sit down. You're in a lot better position.
Who'd want to be a coach? Who'd want to be a coach?
Well, the setup here at the National Indoor Stadium for men's wheelchair basketball, the Group B match. And there's the very heavily fancied Australian team, and there are those that are doing the chasing. Australia 24 lead China 18 with 2 minutes of play remaining before half-time. And you have to say, with Heidi getting those 6 points in this quarter, China got to within 2. And in any sport, well, no, I shouldn't say this, I'll ask you, did you ever have the feeling that when you were seriously challenged, you had the ability as a team to just lift?
Oh, absolutely.
You do, seriously?
Absolutely. Every good team I've seen, able-bodied sport, Paralympic sport, you name it, has got a little wick. And occasionally, that's what differentiates. They light it, and when you light it, the guys spark up. And the coach knows it.
But what about if the opposition team that might be a little inferior on paper get a bit of a run on, and their confidence is up, and you might be a bit flat, and they come at you? Is there always that feeling of confidence in your mind?
Well, there's not, and two things will happen. either Brad Ness on court will spark up as he is a natural leader, or Ben Attridge, as we see the Aussie cheerleaders in there, or Ben Attridge at a timeout will absolutely give them a shellacking and make them wake up.
I wonder what his feelings were. We couldn't hear him from here, maybe just as well.
Well, the good thing about Ben is that he's actually a quietly spoken person, but you know if he sparks up that you got to listen. Oh, Shawnee Norris, great work, good control.
And the 2 is there. That's Brad Ness, who is enjoying himself. 15 points so far in this game. And the Australian lead now stretches out to 8, 26-18. Trying to get the ball back over halfway. Haiding has 6 second quarter points with the left hand. Bounce pass with aplomb to Wanding Q. Wanding Q back to Haiding. Haiding is blocked. Puts the shot up and in. Yes!
3-point play.
I think it counts. You wait then for the referee. Some of them are really extroverted when they walk up, and it's as if they're on cue for a role in a TV film. Like, woohoo, with the fingers. Watch the referee now, and he's supposed to indicate that the points count and the visit to the charity stripe takes place, but some of them don't.
Look, he's like Billy Bowden. There's a bit of theatre.
Oh, Billy Bowden.
The cricket umpire, who certainly is theatrical, but umpires and referees have got to make their stance on the game.
Yeah,
and if
true.
they can do that with a bit of entertainment, well, all the best.
Now there's the coast to coast from Ness from one end to the other, and some forlorn looks then from the Chinese, as that was as good as it's been for Australia. 28-20, minute 7 to go before half-time. Australia by 8. But China haven't won a game in this competition so far. Haiding gets the pass across. Guess who wasn't looking? Wandong Q. And the Australians are away. Everson, no, he won't get there.
Bad luck.
Not quite. Cutting off his path is Peng Ching Lee. Peng Ching Lee back to Haiding. Back to Peng Ching Lee. Now to Li Yang. Li Yang couldn't make it. Everson does the grabbing. Under 40 seconds of play before half-time. The Australians with a chance to score. Shot clock is 15, time clock is 30. Everson for Australia, inside the 3-point line. Looks, thinks about it. Still time. Pass was all right. Dowler in.
Dylan
Alcott, I should say, in.
The 17-year-old from Victoria drops the basket. That's fantastic. We need the lower pointers, and once again, the people who are ranked between 1 point and probably 2.5 points. We need at least 20 points from them to be successful, and Dylan's certainly added to that tally.
10 points the difference, 9.8 seconds of play remaining before half-time. Substitution there, Alcott goes off, and the sub coming on, is that Tristan? No, it's not, it's Harnett down there, Michael Harnett.
Yep.
Who's there. Now he flicks it back in, and Everson has it for Australia, and the shots, the clock starts when? Now, sort of stuck for a minute.
We've got 4 sandgropers on court, and that was a pretty wayward. But you don't mind Justin having a shot at the 3-point line, and justifiably with 8 seconds remaining.
It's half-time. This is men's wheelchair basketball, the National Indoor Stadium Group B game, and Australia lead China by 30-20, with Ness having 17 points for Australia and Norris 6, whilst for China, Haiding has 8 and Li Yang has 6. Half-time, Australia 30, lead China 20.